You're listening to the Social U podcast, sponsored by Social University. Be sure to follow us on our socials listed in the show notes. Now, let's dive in. I'm Becky Johnson.
And I'm Laura Black.
Welcome to the Social U podcast. So we've talked about how the internet is a wealth of knowledge. Before the internet came along, we had to dust off encyclopedias and actually look through them to find the subject matter that we wanted to find out about. And if it was something recent, you just had to wait until next year's encyclopedia came out.
Didn't you think that was gold, though? It was like the Bible of whatever else you needed to know. Like, that was the final word. Like, I didn't think about it updating. So, boy, what a new world we're in.
I used to always check out from the library when I was in elementary school, the Disney encyclopedias, the Disney yearbook for each year. And those were some of my favorite books. But now,
I mean, I remember rainy day, your mom says you're bored, go find something to do, or I'll find something for you to do. And it usually involved cleaning. So, I mean, I'd page through an encyclopedia any day.
And you learned a lot. There was a lot of knowledge.
Yeah.
And now we have the world at our fingertips. You can find out anything you want to know immediately, just instantly. You do have to be careful. There is lots of stuff on there that's not true. Like, anybody can update the Wikipedia page. You don't have to actually be an expert. But there is a lot of knowledge and a lot of knowledge being shared from reputable sources. So I wanted us to talk about things we have learned on the internet, things we would not have found out otherwise that we learned on the internet. I'm thinking about those people that post the I was today years old. And some of those, they were today years old when they found out, and then they say something that's not actually true. So you have to take them with a grain of salt.
I always feel like such an old person when it's like something super easy with your phone. Like, I've known this for a while, but for example, if you hold down on the space bar on your iPhone, you can move it around like a mouse, like in your text. So you don't have to delete the whole thing. I mean, some of those are pretty darn handy.
Yeah, when I found that out, that was life-changing. I actually had to ask people in our Slack how they were able to drop down to a different line without a big space. And you apparently just hold the shift bar when you hit enter. See, that was a new one for me.
I was so glad you asked that because I wanted to know too.
I was like, everybody else has these little concise things they post. And then I have these like big spread out 5 different messages.
Yeah, you can get these, those stickers you can get with shortcuts for your computer and all that. I feel like that would be so helpful for me, but I need like one that extends, like unfolds like 5 feet to the left and I can see, there's so many shortcuts that would be helpful.
I didn't ever think about that. That's a good idea. I didn't realize that they had those.
Oh yeah, they're all over like Etsy and eBay and all these places. And they're tailored to whatever program you want, like MacBook Pro shortcuts or Canva shortcuts or they're all over the place. Somebody was smart.
When I learned that Command-Shift-4 would take a screenshot, that was also life-changing.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. And Command-Shift-5 is recording.
So I've learned some normal things on the internet. We've talked about how I learned to knit. I learned to do resin crafts. I followed a lot of art tutorials on Procreate, which are really cool because I have no artistic ability whatsoever, but I can follow directions. So I can do these tutorials. And I've learned home repairs, car repairs, all these things that I would have to get like some person to come to my house back in the day before the internet. What is something you have learned that has been useful for you?
Well, some things I've learned haven't been useful, but some things really have. I guess one of the things I'm always looking for how to clean grout easily without like killing yourself, which, tile grout, boy, that's a middle-aged thing to say. That's like really old and obnoxious. I'm kind of learning. I think I need to just hire somebody to do it because nothing I've tried is working and I'm kind of done trying. One thing that's kind of fun is we got a new to us, but not new Jeep not too long ago. And it's like a giant tinker toy. You can do anything and you just Google it up and there you go. You can change anything. It's like, 2 bolts and I can do that. Score. It's like this whole wealth of, well, what can we do? And it's not that expensive and ooh, fun. And so that's probably my biggest fun. What have I learned lately? Anything how to, like you said, I'm always looking for how to do this and that.
Also, along with the how to, anytime we have any sort of symptoms, if my kid gets a rash, I am plugging that stuff into the internet and asking like, what is wrong with us? What do we have? And it's been very helpful, especially with things like rashes, like if you've got hand, foot, and mouth, Fifth's disease, those things, you can see what those look like on the internet and kind of diagnose and have an idea before you go to the doctor of what you're dealing with.
Right? Does your kid have white patchy spots in their throat? I don't know. What's that supposed to look like?
See?
There you go. Thank you, Internet.
One of the most disturbing things to me that I have learned. So I am originally from New Orleans. I love seafood. It's my favorite. And I love oysters. My favorite way to eat oysters is fried, but I love them baked. I will eat them pretty much anyway, except raw. And that is because I used to eat them raw. And then I found out, thanks to the internet, that raw oysters are actually still alive. Once the oyster dies, it's toxic. So you can't eat a dead oyster unless it is cooked. So anytime you've eaten a raw oyster, it has been alive.
Ew.
Yeah, it freaked me out.
I'm not a big seafood person anyway. And, that's a big note for me.
Yeah, I've not eaten one since.
But it's also gross to think about all the parasites you actually do eat. You know what I mean? Like, you have no idea they're on there, and then you start looking and, ew.
Now, this is not something I learned on the internet. This is something I actually learned when I was in school. But when you learn that your whole body is always covered in bacteria, and it's just kind of like gross. Like there's bacteria on your tongue right now, gross.
I know, right? I don't want to get any kind of a sample from myself and look under a microscope. No, thank you.
Yogurt is also alive.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, it says right on the thing, it says live cultures, but I watched a video one time where they held something over the yogurt and it like microscopically where you could not see it with your naked eye, but like moved towards that thing. And it's just like, we eat that.
Oh, and then I gotta remember God made me and he didn't make junk and he didn't make, and I'm like, oh, but still, I just don't want to think about it.
Yeah, it's like when I was in college, my biology class was one of the most interesting and one of the most horrifying classes I ever took, because by the time you leave that class, you really don't want to eat anything. You learn so much that you don't want to know. So what is your next one?
Jokingly, how to lose a guy in 10 days. That popped in my head while I was thinking about things you can learn on the internet. That's like things you wouldn't learn in school. Right. And that was such a good movie. It's an oldie, but it was good. And I just think that's funny because theirs was in a magazine, but you could learn that on the internet these days.
You can learn how to build a bomb. You can learn how to get a boyfriend and lose a boyfriend, all the things. My next one is really cute and sweet. And it's one of the reasons that I love the internet. And that is, I learned that otters sleep holding hands so they don't float away from each other. And you can see it on the internet. You can see videos of them asleep, holding their little tiny paws together.
Oh, that's so sweet.
It's super cute.
The internet is so good on research too. Like, I know that you learn all these cute little sweet things. And like, I love watching the panda feeders, feed the pandas. It's hilarious. Like, you can research anything you need to know. Like, if it's an event that's already happened and it's like a yearly, so I have this friend going to a convention with a product she's taking. And she has to do some things, but she's never been there. So we just went to researching, hey, people have posted things about it. And so now she has a general idea of the lay of the land and how it goes and all of that. So you can literally anything you want to figure out, pretty much, unless it's a brand new thing that's never happened, you can figure it out.
We did that with Disney. Before we went to Disney, we went on the internet and we found all these websites that tell you what time of day is the best for which lines and how to avoid getting caught in crowds. And we literally, I think in an entire 6-day trip to Disney, waited more than 10 minutes, maybe once.
That's amazing.
And it was all because these other people had done the math and figured it out. And we just did what they said do.
And 99.9% of that stuff is free to, people just like to share the information and they like to put it out there. And I mean, of course, it may not be true, but it might be. Like, and in your case, it paid off well.
For instance, the magic hours, you get like one park will open an hour early and another one will close an hour late. You actually wait in longer lines if you go to the early morning magic hour park, because that's where everybody's going. Yeah, everybody's going there. So even though you get an extra hour, you're going to spend that hour waiting in 30-minute lines. Whereas if you go to one of the other parks, it's going to be almost empty compared to the others. Not almost empty, but it's going to be so much lighter on the crowds because everybody wants that extra hour. And it's just things you wouldn't think about.
Yeah.
And speaking of travel, I'm not a good flyer. I don't like to fly in planes. So I also Googled this and found out that the odds of dying in a plane crash are 1 in 11 million.
I mean, that's helpful to me.
Right? Like I might as well win the lottery if I'm going to do that, you know?
So, you know, it might be your day, but chances are it's not.
It's a little scary when you look up your chances of dying in a car crash. It's way more than 1 in 11 million. So that's what I tell myself. Like it was more dangerous to drive to the airport than it is to fly to LA.
I've had that conversation with myself during takeoff a number of times.
It really is comforting though to think about, like it's so rare that it happens. The reason you hear about it and the reason it's such a giant disaster is because it is so rare. You don't hear about every car wreck that happens on TV, but you hear about every plane crash, and it's because you can, because there's no way they could talk about every car wreck.
And you know, that is one drawback about the internet. I mean, everything is so in your face. We know so much more than we used to, which can be a bad thing. You know, I mean, we get everything at our fingertips instantly. Any news thing happens, we have it in less than a minute. You know, as soon as they can type it, it's there.
Yeah.
Just all of these things. And like, I think we can send ourselves down bad rabbit holes.
We've talked about some of those bad rabbit holes on here.
For sure.
Another funny thing that I have learned is that the Twitter for KFC follows 11 people, the 5 Spice Girls and 6 guys named Herb, because their secret blend is 11 herbs and spices.
That's awesome.
And that is so funny. And the first person that ever pointed it out, they actually sent him this big painting of him riding piggyback on Colonel Sanders' back holding a chicken leg.
That's hilarious.
You should look it up because you deserve to see the picture of this guy riding on Colonel Sanders' back. It's really funny.
Have you seen the meme about you've got Colonel Sanders' face, but then usually you just see the black bow tie and it kind of looks like a stick person?
Yes.
Like, so now you can't unsee that.
Right. Every time you said it's like his little bitty body.
Yeah, running. Oh, even my kid showed me that. And we don't ever eat at KFC. I don't think we have one, but so funny.
It's not my favorite, but Robbie likes it.
There's got to be some around here somewhere, but not in my little neck of the woods. So,
have you seen online how they X-ray babies?
No.
This is also something that is hilarious. They basically put them in a clear tube. So imagine this baby shoved in a clear tube with its arms over its head. And the baby is just sitting there like a little Buddha with its arms over its head, squished into this little tube. And that's how they keep it still and in the right position. It's hilarious. If you Google image search baby getting an X-ray, you won't be disappointed.
Oh my goodness. I mean, you got to do something.
Sometimes I'm imagining they bring in the little machine where they're laying in the incubator and they can like just do it over them. But if you just take them to the doctor and they're getting X-rayed, they put them in a clear tube. So 2 of the things I found out that kind of rocked my world, and I found them out a while back, but still every time I think about them again, I just all over again am just like, what? The first is that Pablo Picasso died in 1973.
Wait, he did?
He did. You think about him with like the old masters, like with Michelangelo and Da Vinci and like Picasso, like he's one of those names, but he is a modern times painter. He died in the 70s. His daughter had a perfume brand that was popular in the 80s. He's not from like the 17th, 18th century.
Man, that totally feels like he is.
Doesn't it?
Oh my word. Yeah. Thanks, school history, world history.
A testament, I guess, to his genius that he is lumped in with all of these great masters. But yeah, he's totally modern.
That's interesting.
And the other one, and everybody else may have known this, and I may sound super dumb right now. I promise I was in the gifted class when I was younger, but there's just things they don't teach you, right?
Well, that's true, because I was too, and I didn't learn half of this.
So a pony is not a baby horse. I thought a pony was a baby horse. And now I knew that they were also called foals, but I thought pony was another name for a baby horse. And it's not. It's actually a specific type of horse that is small. Even when a pony is grown, it's still a pony. Like Shetland ponies. They're just little, but they are horses, not foals.
I think it took me a long time to figure that one out too.
And like My Little Pony doesn't help,
No.
because it just seems like they're just little kid horses.
Exactly.
So if you didn't know that, you're welcome. Now you know.
Now you can move your space bar around. You know about ponies. What else? Fix anything on a Jeep. You can Google the babies in the X-ray. That's funny.
I mean, if you haven't done it, you have to. It's so cute.
Kid, if you just sit still, we wouldn't have to do that.
Right.
Oh,
So
goodness.
I only have one more. And it's just kind of a fun fact. Just so everyone knows, one of the YouTube channels that I follow and love is called List 25. And it's always just like random knowledge. It'll be like List 25 most dangerous animals in the world, or 25 things that you learned in school that are wrong, or 25 facts that will shake your reality. Like, it's just really cool, and it's facts and it's fun. I really like that. So if you are the kind of person that is interested in trivia, facts, you want to know things that are fun party tricks, go check them out. I don't think that's where I learned the one that's my last one, but it just made me remember that I should share that because it's a really cool YouTube channel.
That makes me think of those. You ever watch those shows? And I know they're on YouTube too, of how things are made.
Oh, yeah.
That blows my mind how they do certain things that you have it one way in your head. Oh, that's how they have to do it. Like stamping designs in pottery with paint, or making like some kind of random food object. Some of them are like, ooh, that's how it's made. It's just so fun to watch that stuff.
Yeah, I'm a total nerd for that stuff. I love documentaries. I love watching how things are made. I watched an entire documentary called Helvetica that was literally just about the Helvetica font.
Oh, really? That's
and I'm
funny.
like, this is how I know I'm old. This is not something I would have done as a young person.
You know, I love to watch that Zac Efron documentary thing where he goes all over the place and talks about different things. I can't think of the name of that. That's a really good one too, which I'm sure it's online.
I haven't seen that one, but I love the one with Jeff Goldblum.
Oh, yeah.
Is it like The World According to Jeff Goldblum or something? He acts like everything he learns is the most amazing thing he has ever learned. And every time he meets someone, he acts like they are the most interesting person he has ever met. He always seems really humble and not all about himself, but like he acts like the person he's talking to is the famous one and how interesting they are. And I just love it.
The one I was talking about is called Down to Earth with Zac Efron. I think it was a Netflix thing. I don't know. It was amazing. And he kind of did that too. He was interested to learn these things from all these people. And they're showing him how to bake bread in the super hot earth crust. And they're, like all kinds of stuff.
That's awesome.
And it's just so fascinating.
I'm going to have to check that one out because I had not seen that. And listen, I used to be a Zac Efron hater. And it's because I really just hated High School Musical. And I kind of pigeonholed him for that.
Yeah.
But I have since seen him in several other movies, and he's been great every time. And so I apologize for my Zac Efron hater period when all I knew was High School Musical.
Well, I feel like there's preteen Zac Efron and then there's adult Zac Efron. And if you didn't know the two were the same, he's changed so much. And I know there's all that talk about, oh, he had surgery done and all that stuff. Well, he also had an accident, but who cares?
Right.
I don't know. I've liked some of the things he's done as an adult.
The thing that really won me over is when he played Ted Bundy in the movie. I can't remember the name of it. The Ted Bundy movie. He was so good. He was also really good in Greatest Showman.
I love The Greatest Showman. It's probably one of my top 10 movies.
I was like, wow, he is very talented.
I don't download a lot of music, and I totally grabbed that one as soon as I could. Oh, I want that one.
Well, my last fact that I have learned on the internet is about movies, and it's the fact that footage is called footage because that's how they measured it. Like, they measure it in feet, the film. And so when they edit it, they take the footage of film and cut it up. And I just thought that was cool because it's one of those things that makes sense when you hear it, but I would have never thought of that.
Yeah, no kidding. Interesting. The way the world has changed too, because it used to not be digital everything. It used to be tangible,
right?
Touchable.
You actually could hold feet of film in your hand. I don't know if they still use real film or if everything is just recorded digitally now. I bet they still use real film for big pictures.
Yeah, I wonder. I don't know. You think they really do? Next thing for you to learn.
See, we're going to learn it today.
We mention our friend Lisa Shuck all the time, and I saw a quote that she had pulled yesterday, and I can't remember how it went exactly, but it was something about the secret to a full life is like learn every day. I'm trying to, man, I'll have to pull that for you, but and it's so true. Like, it's so fun to learn and explore and discover, and there are so many ways you can do it. You can read a book, you can look on the internet, you can have a physical adventure, in the 3D world, like there's so many things to do, and learning can be so fun. That sounds nerdy, but learn about what you're passionate about. Learn about what you're not passionate about.
Learn about anime.
Well, exactly. I had a great aunt and I loved her to pieces. She was just an amazing person. And she always had 2 books. I mean, she's been gone for like 20 years. So this, pre-internet, she always had 2 books going, one to read for pleasure and one to read to learn something. And every day she would read a little of both. And I just thought, that's such a good way to keep doing things, and to keep broadening your horizons and enriching your life. And you don't know who you're going to touch after that. It might enrich someone else's life. I just thought that was fun.
I just looked it up, and it says some major motion pictures are still shot on film, even though digital cinematography has become standard. As of 2017, 92% of films were shot digitally, but 24 major films released in 2018 were shot on 35 millimeter film. Some recent major movies shot mostly on film include Wonder Woman, La La Land, Little Women, Jurassic World Dominion, Death on the Nile, and Don't Look Up. All of those were shot on actual film.
Interesting. So I was about 1 semester away from a photography, like associate's degree in the early 2000s, like 2001-ish era, 2002, something like that, at UAB. And we had to move. My husband joined the Air Force, so then I didn't get to finish it. But it was so fun. But one of our teachers was we did everything 35 millimeter, developed the film, all of these things. And one of our favorite teachers, he was a staunch, like, no, has to be, it was when digital was like trickling in just a little bit here and there. And he was like, no, I will never, never, never. And about 10 years ago, I heard, oh yeah, he went to digital and never looked back once he went over. So, I mean, he was so in that vein of, no, it has to be, but it's amazing the capabilities you can get. So it does depend on what you're going for.
So should we bring in Caryn and find out what she has learned? Probably something disturbing on the internet.
Oh boy. Uh-oh, the evil laugh.
Yeah, some of this is disturbing, but some of it's not. Some of it's fun. Truly, deeply, the internet is the whole reason that I have a job today, because social media wasn't a thing. Now it is. Yeah, huge difference. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate maps and being able to look something up so easily so you can get places, and podcasts, which are so readily available with any kind of information you might want. And Becky was mentioning the 25 lists. I love having access to old movie clips and old TV clips.
Right.
Let me get specific. I saw this woman take cheese sauce, like a Velveeta cheese sauce, and she cut the end off and put it in her pot and put the lid down and then pulled it through the lid and it squeezed all the sauce out. And she didn't get any on her. It may have been the coolest thing I've ever seen. I'm like, why have I not been doing that?
Yeah, there's lots of life hacks online.
So many.
Man, yeah.
And like if you follow Jordan the Stallion, he not only does life hacks, but if there's something cool you're looking for on the internet, he can find it and he posts it about it, which I find that stuff fascinating.
I'm also scribbling as y'all tell me these cool things like List 25 and Jordan the Stallion.
Jordan the Stallion. Like if somebody's like, where do you find this bread that they make it? He'll go find it. Or I need the recipe. He'll go find it. Or somebody found an antique toaster that flips your bread around to toast it one side at a time. He found it. So anything like that, he locates it, and he's so funny. So yeah, I really enjoy his stuff.
You can find the coconut soup recipe that Caryn uses online, just FYI.
Oh yeah.
Becky's favorite restaurant in Birmingham.
Yes.
Shout out.
Yeah. Same. I am weirdly obsessed with New York real estate.
Oh yeah, I watched that.
For those of you guys who don't know, we're in Alabama. I'm in Alabama. And Becky sounds like she's in Alabama, but she's not. And Laura started, she didn't start in Alabama, but she spent a big chunk of her life here. So we're Southern. And I am obsessed with like New York apartments. I do virtual tours. I follow those videos. I'm not moving to New York. I don't need a New York apartment, but I love watching that stuff.
Well, those whole people are built different. It's so different. It's so amazing. I love to watch them. I love those.
I'm so deeply fascinated. I also am weirdly fascinated by wedding disasters. You know, the story of my mother-in-law wore a white wedding dress to my wedding. That stuff fascinating to me. Fascinating. Am I getting married? No. It's still super fascinating. Okay. Are you guys ready for the weirdly specific stuff?
Yeah, why not?
Absolutely.
I have a tendency to rabbit hole on information. So when I go see it online and I find out that it might be a true thing, I'll go research it. And I've mentioned this previously, but I am obsessed with the Great Lakes.
Oh, we talked about this last week.
Yeah, dude. They're the 5 most dangerous lakes. There's one where you die from methane gas. There's one where you die from carbon dioxide. There's one where the water is next to a volcano. So even if you get too close, it not only will it melt your skin off, the steam from it will melt your skin off. The one has an alkaline level, like a chemical. You get chemical burns. Again, you can just get close to it. And then there's Lake Michigan. I'm like, why is Lake Michigan on the top 5? Because it has such an unpredictable and dangerous current. It causes a lot of deaths. And people, they assume it's safe, so they'll get out there and perish. I found it's a women's journalist. She has a tremendous amount of experience. She's traveled all over the world, but she's been a professional climber. She was a professional, I don't know what it's called, but she would take you on tours down the river. But I follow her, and I found an article which led me to the New York Times. You know, I wanted to check and make sure it was correct. Something that I thought was fascinating, and boy, did I go down the rabbit hole. When one partner in a marriage or a relationship runs a marathon, the other partner gets stuck doing literally everything else. Oftentimes, the training takes over the household, and it leaves the other spouse to take care of the family and literally everything else, you know, meals, school appointments. Well, they broke it down further and found out that men are so much more likely to not participate in their life when they're training. So they train in spite of everything going on, and women will train including everything going on. So you'll get a mom that'll get up and go train before the kids wake up so she can be there to get them ready for school. And then you'll have a dad that trains when mom's home by herself, and he just goes out on Saturday or travels or whatever he does. So I thought the gender-based statistics were super interesting, and boy, did I go down the rabbit hole. I found out more about marathons than I ever really wanted to.
See, that's why I don't run marathons. I just want, to have the time to be fully present for my family. I do it for them.
Yeah. You know how you can tell if somebody's run a marathon?
They'll tell you.
They'll tell you. You know how to tell if somebody's vegan? They'll tell you. This is a lighter topic, so I don't want this to get too dark, but thanks to several family vloggers, the dangers of exposing your kids to the internet too soon and doing things on camera that your children will be ashamed of later. I feel like what a lot of people thought was just innocent stuff, they're finally starting to realize, less innocent and more dangerous than they originally thought. And these kids are growing up and they are mad.
This is not a fun thing you learned on the internet.
It is not a fun thing. It is not a fun thing. I told you I didn't want to make it too dark, but that is one thing I've learned on the internet. I have one more thing, but it's not fun either.
Oh.
But it is educational because I'm a very big believer. I'm on the board for Safe House of Alabama, which provides resources for domestic abuse victims. I had no idea the stats were so high. I didn't know that until the internet and kind of understanding how other people can help and the psychology behind victims and why they stay instead of leave and how dangerous it is to leave. And this is kind of why I wanted to bring this up, because there's two things that people need to know. If you're ever in a bar or a restaurant and somebody asks for an angel shot, it means that they're in danger and they need help.
Good to know.
I thought that was fascinating. And the other, if you hold your hand up and put your thumb across your palm and then fold all of your fingers down over it, that is a silent cue that you need assistance, that you are in danger. People use it on the police. They'll use it in a car. So if you're driving down the road and you see that, something is wrong.
Yeah.
And I think that bringing awareness to that is a good thing. I know the topic is terrible and I'm not trying to make it worse than it is, but definitely want everybody to know what to recognize and how you can help.
So I am so awkward that when I hear about things like this is the hand sign or whatever, I'm so afraid I'm going to do something accidentally and then the police are going to show up because it looks like I was asking for help and I was not.
Right. Well, there's a woman who the police knocked on her door. They're ready to take her to jail. She came outside. What's going on? Do you have a person in your trunk? It was her wig. It ended up being really funny. Mistakes happen. Accidents happen. I think it's always a positive thing to be aware when you can step in and assist another person. And sometimes that's all it takes is one outsider recognizing there's an issue and calling the authorities or saying something or stepping up to make all the difference in the world. So
That's true.
Yeah.
I think that my fear started when I was young and we would go to car auctions and my dad would be like, don't raise your hand. They'll think you're bidding.
Oh, right.
And as like a 10-year-old, then I'm afraid to like scratch my nose, you know? I'm like, they're going to think this 10-year-old is bidding on this car. Like,
I mean, come on, they're going to know you're not bidding. You're 10
but when
years
you're
old.
10, you don't know that they're going to know that you're not bidding.
That was your dad's genius way of telling you to sit still.
Yes. And so I am just terrified that I'm going to accidentally bid on a car.
Oh, I mean, I've seen a bunch of air quotes parenting hacks that are hilarious.
Oh, right. There's some good ones.
What, like dad that told his kids that when you could hear the music on the ice cream truck, it meant they were out of stuff.
That's awesome. Cruel, but awesome.
You know, the monster spray. I learned about that online.
I mean, that stuff works great.
It's genius. Yeah. It does.
Maybe that's what we should talk about one week is life hacks and parenting hacks we've learned online.
Oh, there's so many really good life hacks, just so many. And so many things I found out, oh, I'm doing that wrong. Oh, I've been doing that wrong.
So for social media this week, I don't want this to get political. This is not about politics. This is about the influence of social media on people and their thoughts. And that is tragedy deniers. I'm talking people that deny the Holocaust.
Yeah.
The guy that said Sandy Hook was actors.
Yeah.
And most recently, the thought that the whole assassination attempt on Trump was staged and that everybody there was in on it and there was no real danger.
Yeah.
I'm interested in the psychology of people that are in no way related to a situation, how they can be so confident in their opinion that it is not real.
Right.
Well, it's the same thing as having someone who's never experienced discrimination say discrimination isn't real. How do you know?
It didn't happen to me, so obviously it's not real. Well, your experience is not everybody's experience.
Well, and then you have people who, contrary to evidence, scientific-based evidence, they want to argue with you, like flat earthers.
Yeah.
It's when science can prove that it's correct, and there's literally images from space when satellites go around the Earth. They're like, nah.
I'm just going to say the most compelling evidence I've heard online for round Earth is that if the Earth were really flat, cats would have pushed everything off of it already.
Yes. Oh, that's so funny.
I actually made that joke one day about the cats, and I had somebody seriously trying to tell me it's because there's a raised lip around the edge of the Earth.
Goodness.
And I'm just like, have you been there? I want to see it.
There are still people who think the Holocaust was fake or any tragedy, any horrible historical event. Somebody out there thinks it was made up.
I was actually given a talk the other day and I said something about Corrie ten Boom. And I said, have any of you ever heard of her? And of course, there's always like one heckler in the crowd. And he said, no, I've never heard of her. And I said, you know, that she was a Jewish lady that survived living in a concentration camp during the Holocaust. And he goes, oh, yeah, that's why I never heard of her. She's probably just not real.
Oh,
I'm like, first of all, you're 30. Like, what do you know about the Holocaust?
Oh my goodness.
As opposed to the people that were actually alive then and involved, you know?
She's so famous. Oh my goodness. Good gravy.
It was crazy. So my friend group is very diverse on Facebook, and it is split down the middle between people that are just like, oh my goodness, everybody in the world hates Trump, and that's why this happened, is because they've incited everybody to try to kill him. And then on the other side, it's obviously this was staged. This wasn't real. People didn't even look scared. He had a blood capsule behind his ear. Like, on either side, for people who had nothing to do with it and were not there, to be so incredibly confident in their assessment is just crazy to me.
Now, were mistakes made? Yeah. But that doesn't mean it's fake. That doesn't mean he wasn't. And their violence is never the answer, regardless of your political affiliation. It's never okay to take aim against an opponent.
And somebody did lose their life.
Yeah.
Somebody did.
And
so
it would be a crazy fakery for you to actually shoot somebody to make this like staged attempt, you know, like.
I think it goes back to the whole, we've talked so many times about things are fake or things are real or what do we believe on social media. Everything is so at our fingertips, and there are things that do mislead us that aren't right. And it's easy to sit back and be like, oh, well, I saw that. Well, I put together all these eyewitness accounts. Of course that, you're not there. You don't know for a fact. You can't just sit back and armchair quarterback it the whole time.
Well, and everybody has a different perception, and that perception is your reality. So just because that's what you think happened doesn't mean that's what happened.
And the guy that was saying that Sandy Hook was all actors, and like he's talking to people whose elementary school children were murdered.
Yeah.
The audacity to say that didn't really happen. Your child wasn't really killed. And fortunately, they went to court with him and he's been ordered to pay those families damages.
The audacity to say to a grieving parent that what happened didn't happen. What is wrong with you?
Oh my God.
Their child is obviously not with them. What do you think happened if they weren't injured in this?
It's like salt in the wound. It's like, it's bad enough. Like, it's the most tragic thing that could ever happen to anybody, to lose their child.
Right.
And then for you to say they're faking it. Like, really?
There's a very well publicized bully case that's happening right now where a 13-year-old girl, she was targeted by bullies for 5 years to the point where she finally took her own life. And the mom, who was trying to grieve, she's going through her own process. And part of her process is to be an advocate for anti-bullying, which I'm here for. I think that's a great thing to do. Well, the parents of the bullies are catching a lot of heat for this. So they went to court and the judge silenced the mother of the victim.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. That's
ridiculous. She told her to take down all of her social media and stop talking to people. Come on, what does that benefit? Who does that benefit?
Exactly.
Put me in jail, okay?
Yeah, there's certain things that, especially when it comes to your kids, it's just wrong.
Yeah, if you do something that leads to the death of my child, you're going to believe I'm going to talk about it for the rest of my life.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
To anybody who will listen.
Oh, and everybody grieves in different ways. Let her grieve how she wants to.
So our Sippin Social Tea this week. When your boss says that it's okay to use influencer images without their permission because they'll be happy for the exposure. Sure. That is in fact illegal.
It is illegal. You can get sued.
And you probably will get sued if you have an account large enough to get noticed by said influencer. They make money based on their content. So if you take their content and post it, they're not making money and they're not probably getting publicity from you because people that know about you probably already knew about them. They're literally just losing money on their content.
They need to look at how to and how it works, right?
We've had clients before say, well, can't you just pull something off Google Images? No, you cannot.
Well, I can, but do you want to pay $5,000 a day every day it's on your website? Because it's super illegal. And if you get caught, that's what's going to happen.
Right. Just because it's on the internet doesn't mean it's free.
Oh, and I can tell you that from firsthand experience. We were working with a client, an attorney, and they got a letter saying a cease and desist about an image on their website. And they contacted me immediately. Did you do this? I've never been more happy to say no in my entire life. No, that wasn't me. That wasn't my team. Because we bought all of our images. Because that's how you have to do it. If you're going to list an image online, you have to purchase the rights to reproduce. Whoever did it before us put an image up, and they were on the hook for $5,000 a day for the entire history of the web. I'm like, oh, wow. Now, of course, they're an attorney and they're in a better position to fight than most people,
But also they're an attorney. How did they not know this was illegal?
people trust their vendors. People trust the professional. You go to your doctor and the doctor's like, oh, you've got strep. Okay. What am I going to do? Go home and do my own cultures and be like, no, it's the flu.
Right.
You trust who you trust. Like when you go to the mechanic and they say, oh, you need, unless it's, Express Oil, and I don't believe anything they tell me, but most mechanics will tell you, hey, this is what you need. What am I don't know. I have to trust you. So they trust the professional who's doing the website to follow the rules. Just like people trust us on their social media to follow the rules. And if we break the rules and they get in trouble, it's going to come back on us. So I'm not going to play Russian roulette with your account.
No, and you shouldn't either.
Mm-mm.
And lastly, this week, our social media hotline. It's an oldie but a goodie.
Social media hotline. So you're on LinkedIn. When people aren't connecting with you, okay, let's take a look. Oh, it says here that you don't have a good tagline. Oh, it says that under your name, it just says that you have a job. Oh, it looks like your cover art. Oh, there's not any. Okay, well, you're going to want to go ahead and make that cover art look like it has something more to do with your business, and you want to change your title to what you actually do for people. Okay, great. Thanks for calling. Okay, bye-bye.
So the reason I like this one is most people have at least some idea of how to do their Facebook and their Instagram and their Twitter, but we run into so many people and their LinkedIn is just a wasteland. It's like they have never heard of anything in their lives and they don't know how to put a cover art or anything on there. Like, it's the one I see the most abuse on from the actual person on their own profile. It's the one people don't know how to work.
Yeah. And it is the most, to me, I know it's Laura's favorite, but it's the most effective use of time because it's still linear. If you follow these steps, you will get the results you were looking for because that's how it works.
Yeah.
A lot of times people treat it like it is Instagram or something, and they've got like a picture of them and their dog as their profile picture. And then all of their updates are like what they had for lunch. And you're like, this ain't that place. This is not that place.
Right.
This is like your work.
Yeah. I don't want to see a picture of you from 20 years ago. I don't want your dog. I don't want to. I'm sure your husbands and kids are great.
Listen,
they don't belong.
I was cuter 20 years ago, so maybe you do want to see a picture of me 20 years ago.
No, you're still as cute as you ever were.
Listen, realtors with glamour shots. That's all I'm saying.
Yes.
So many realtors. I'll be driving down the road here in Columbus, and there's billboards for realtors I've never heard of, and they still have glamour shots.
Oh, my word.
It's like a realtor disease that they use glamour shots. If you're a realtor and you're listening to this, take down the glamour shot.
Yeah.
You'd be better off getting one of those AI generated professional headshot photos than using that glamour shot.
If you aren't recognizable, you need a new picture.
Oh,
the end.
And when I say AI headshot, I'm not talking about the ones that people are sharing on Facebook like wildfire these days. Those are like the idealized you. I'm talking about the ones where they take like 20 pictures of you and make headshots that actually look like you look now. These on Facebook are cracking me up. Here's me looking like I'm a nurse from the 40s. And here's me with a beehive in the 60s. And here's me on a yacht sipping champagne looking like a Kardashian. Everybody knows that's not you.
Right.
And you don't even look like that even a little bit.
Okay, that's a great point. Everybody does not know. There are still people online who think the pictures and the stuff they see is real.
But like, how are you living on this earth and you don't realize people don't look like aliens?
The same reason that somebody quoted Abraham Lincoln saying, don't believe everything you see on the internet.
To keep my sanity, I always have to assume when people post things like that, they know it's a joke.
Let's assume that they know
I mean, at least throw a laughing emoji out there with it. Got to tip off some of these new breeds that have no idea.
That's true.
Well, and I mean, how many times have you seen on Facebook? I am reposting this and not giving anyone access to my...
Oh my goodness, it drives me crazy. It's like, how many years do we have to tell you that's not real?
Right. And quit doing the quizzes that tell you everything about yourself.
Why don't you just do a quick Google search?
Right.
And why, Laura, 100%. Why would you do a quiz and give them access to your entire life?
That's my biggest pet peeve. What's your birthday? What's your sign? What's your favorite color? What's your dog's name?
What's your
golly dang.
If I do one of those, it's going to be like the really funny ones that aren't your personal information. Like, would you rather have a 20-ounce Mountain Dew or a fifth of whiskey? Like, those are the quizzes I'm looking for.
If I had a fifth of whiskey, I'd be asleep. I'd be drooling in my keyboard.
If you had a shot of whiskey, you would be drooling on your keyboard.
Yeah, 100.
Karen's a lightweight.
Like, if you told me
I
to
do not.
choose between those two, I'd be like, I guess I'm thirsty. I don't want either one of them.
Very low.
Listen, I love me a Mountain Dew. Y'all know that.
I know Becky would choose that for sure.
I used to drink Mountain Dew when I was a kid, but I can't handle that much caffeine anymore.
I literally drink
Well,
it as a vehicle for my caffeine.
Yeah, one of the few times Becky has stayed overnight here when she's visiting. In case you guys don't know, she has a dozen children, so sleep is not on the agenda. So anytime she's here, I leave her alone and let her sleep. I'm Caryn Terradas with Social U. Be sure to join us next week for our next podcast. And be on the alert. We have some really, really cool free downloads coming your way.
Thanks for listening to the Social U podcast, sponsored by Social University. We'll see you next week.